Okay, how should we start? Just go.
Okay.
Let's just go and see what happens.
Let's just goose.
Let's just gooza. Okay.
Episode 2, Tales of Ales, starts now.
Ugh.
I'm keeping that part in.
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Tales of Ales. Today we are bringing you sours. Seems like an appropriate time of year for that. Everyone likes nice, crisp, sour, tart ales this time of year, especially when it starts to get slightly warmer out. But this one is going to be kind of interesting. We're going to do two different types of sours. One, we got the classic Belgian lambics, which are kind of like the father of sour ales. Mm-hmm. And then you got the American sours, which is what people in these parts of the world know more about.
Yeah, it's the wild, wild west compared to lambics.
Yeah,
lambics,
sure.
Lots of rules.
Lots of rules.
American sours,
no rules. They just do whatever they want.
No rules, just right.
That's right. So to start out, we're gonna do the Lindemans, but let's do a little backstory here. So sours are different than most beers in the fact that a lot of them are brewed with wild yeast, mm-hmm. as opposed to specific yeast that brewers use in their beers. The way that differs is like with the lambics, they brew these in an open area and just let them interact with the wild air. So
open fermentation.
Open fermentation. And it's kind of unique, especially with lambics, because they can only be brewed in one area of the world, which is the Belgium, Brussels area. But they can only be brewed at a specific point of the year, which I thought was interesting. They can't be brewed in the hot months because it introduces bacteria and yeast that they don't want in the beers. So it's really just through winter and spring that they can let these beers interact with the open air, which I thought was pretty interesting. A lot of these beers also go through a second round of fermentation in the bottle. But yeah. Okay, moving on. There are specific types of bacteria strains used to make sour ales as well. Those being?
Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, and Brettanomyces.
Brettanomyces, which is a fun word to say.
It is.
But yeah, a lot of these beers have, obviously they're going to have that tart flavor. A lot of brewers like to add fruit to balance that out and make it a little bit more palatable. Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead and just start with some tasting.
Yeah,
let's go straight to the lambic. This is a Lindeman Framboise. It's made with raspberries. Lambics typically have a low ABV, so this one only comes in at 2.5%. They're usually used as aperitifs, so it's something you drink after dinner and with dessert. Pairs great with chocolate and all kinds of sweets.
I mean, it's just raspberry on the nose.
That's all you smell. Hot dog. It smells amazing. I love raspberry beers.
Like, I'd love to say it's like a raspberry pie or something, but it's just straight raspberry. It's like having a raspberry puree.
Pretty much.
The thing that's always really evident about Belgian lambics, Framboise specifically as well, is the fact that they're very well balanced in their acidity, where while it's considered a sour beer, it's very sweet.
Yeah, not nearly as tart as other sours.
It's not going to make you pucker at all drinking it. It's a very much like nice, fruity, wonderful, sweet beer.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more carbonated than most beers, but just, really great as an aperitif. This is literally what you want to drink after eating dinner, because it's just perfect for that. It's low ABV, so it's not going to tear you up or anything. But
I swear that you could pour this on like some ice cream and eat it, and it would be delicious.
That's a real thing. I've heard people do that.
It's so good.
But yeah, definitely a good like starter beer if you're trying to get into the sour game, because it gives you that same kind of quality of beer, just not quite the tartness that you get from some sours out there. Like the one we're about to try.
There are a lot of sours out there that acidities are so high that it's it's borderline. It's not unpalatable, but it's like you can have one.
Yeah,
You
it's
can have
like
one, and then it's gonna feel like you had a bunch of sour candy and your tongue hurts. It's Flemish Reds, and Flemish Reds are typically so acidic that it's almost like licking a battery.
Yeah, that is one of the styles of sours. I mean, you got those. You got Berliner Weisses, which are technically a little lower in ABV as well compared to most of them. Usually not quite as tart, and I think they're usually made with wheat as well.
Yeah.
Kind of evens it out, smooths it out a little bit.
Berliners actually, they use syrup in it.
Yeah, syrup instead of actual fruits.
Yeah, because you have to sweeten that beer out.
Yeah, for sure. Another good style is a Goza, which not to be confused with Goose,
Different than a goose.
which is a Belgian style lambic. But Gozas are more of an American style. They're usually made with coriander and sea salt. And that gives you, it kind of balances out the tartness of it, which is interesting. I don't know a whole lot about Gozas.
I actually was reading about them earlier. Kind of want to find it real quick because while they are traditionally American now, they didn't originate there. Gozas did also start off in northern Germany.
Hot dog, look at that.
Yeah.
A German origin, but yeah, coriander and sea salt are most prevalent ingredients in those beers. Definitely, you can taste the saltiness in those for sure.
Yeah, especially on the back end. It's almost nice to have something that's like really tart up front, and then that back end just gets kind of smoothed out by the salt.
Exactly. But we're going to jump right into the American sours, and we've chosen one from Urban Artifact, who is a brewery out of Cincinnati, I believe. Is that correct? Yep, Cincinnati, Ohio. They specialize in sours. It is all they make. But the great thing about Urban Artifact is they use all natural ingredients with their beers, and they always put them on the can itself. So this one is made with 1,200 pounds of blackberries, 1,200 pounds of raspberries, and 30 grams of vanilla beans per 30-barrel batches. So a lot of these beers, you're definitely going to be able to taste the fruit for sure. And this one's actually a little bit higher in alcohol. It comes in at 8% ABV, which is pretty strong for a sour. But the fun thing about Urban Artifact is they actually put their pH levels on the cans, so it tells you a little bit about how sour it's going to be. This one's a 3.2, which isn't too crazy.
I'll let you have the one with the normal head on it instead of the one that I screwed up pouring. I mean, unlike the Frambois, like what you get on the nose from this, as much fruit as in it, is like acidity. It smells like acid.
Yeah, it's definitely not nearly as fruity as the Lambic.
And this is a very, very fruit-packed beer.
Yes, it is. They put a lot of fruit in their beers.
But you gotta imagine that some of that fruit was probably brewed out of the process and added into the actual alcohol, because it is an 8% or so.
You find a lot of these beers make you want to smack your lips.
Yeah, this definitely has that kind of tartness that lingers with you a bit. Hits you in kind of the back of the palate.
Yeah, it's not too overwhelming or anything, as some sours I've had before.
No, not at all.
No.
That probably also has to do with the amount of fruit that they added into it.
For sure it does.
But no, it gives you more of that tartness, that kind of more extreme tartness without being too excessive.
Yeah, it's more balanced than most sours out there. If you like a good fruited one that's not overly tart, this one would be perfect. And it's actually, this used to be a seasonal from Urban Artifact, but they recently put it into their year-round lineup, so it should be available all the time.
Yeah. There are plenty of other sours out there that you can try. These are just a couple of the ones that we're going to touch on for right now. We'll get into a little bit more detail on some other styles at some point. But yeah, this is a nice little introduction to it.
And Lindemans is a great brand to go to if you're trying to get into them, because they have many more flavors other than the raspberry. They have a peach, they have a strawberry.
They even have one of the really lesser known lambic styles, which is Faro.
Faro's
almost
very hard to come by.
I don't know anybody else that makes a Faro, but they do make one.
Yeah, they make all kinds. They also specialize in the Creek style lambics, which are made with cherries, and that was like almost the original lambic style.
Mm-hmm.
Much more tart than your fruited ones would be. But yeah, I think the Frambois is probably their most popular when it comes to lambics.
Yep.
So, running to your nearest Big Red, and try yourself some sours.
Yeah.
Cheers.